What's going on, everybody? Nelsite Gaming here once again with another deck tech video, and today we are taking a look at my mono white life gain trigger deck. The commander is Patron of the Kitsune. It's a 5/6 legendary creature spirit for a 4 white white with Fox offering. You may play this card at any time. You can play an instant by sacrificing a fox and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrifice fox. Mana cost includes color, so let's say you have a 3 CMC fox on the field. You can sack that fox, pay the difference of 3, and put your Patron of the Kitsune down. And then it says, whenever a creature attacks, you may gain 1 life. And that's any creature, including your opponents. So that's going to put a bunch of triggers on the stack, and we want to use those triggers for value. Following that up, we have our 1 CMC creatures. We have Weathered Wayfarer, a 1/1 for white that has pay a white and tap it. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So you can only do this if your opponent has more lands than you, but it is still great. It guarantees that you will get a land drop every single turn. And then follow it up by the Soul Sisters. We have Soul Warden, a 1/1 human cleric for white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, and Soul's Attendant, which does the same. These two are going to be getting us a lot of triggers if our opponents are playing lots of creatures, which a lot of people are. Followed by one of the newest additions to this deck, and a very, very good one in today's meta, you could sort of say it. It's Leonin Elder, a 1/1 cat cleric for a white. Whenever an artifact comes into play, you may gain 1 life. Everybody's running treasures. Treasures have just infested the format, you could say, but we're going to go ahead and take advantage that people are using treasures. Then we have Soul's Ascendant. We have the Spanish version here. It's a 1/1 for 1 white. It has lifelink, and as long as you have 30 or more life, he will get +5/+5 and have flying. So just a nice quick way of gaining life. Followed by Esper Sentinel. Of course, we all know what he does. It's a 1/1 human soldier for 1 that lets us draw a few cards every now and then. Will you pay the 1 or however big So if he's 5/5, then your opponents have to pay 5. You have to get them up, and it's very easy to get him buffed up in this deck. Followed up by Mother of Runes. We're going to give our commander, or whatever pieces we have, whatever creature we have on the table right now that's giving us the most value, we're going to protect it by tapping her. She's a 1/1 for 1 that taps to protect. So, pretty awesome card. Here we have the 2 drops. We have Auriok, or Auriok, I don't know, Champion, a 1/1 human cleric for 2 white, protection from black and from red. Whenever another creature comes into play, you may gain 1 life. So a Soul Sister that costs 2, but it has protection from black and from red. So if we get this creature big enough, we can swing in. We got any players that are playing red or black or Rakdos, we can go in there clean. Also, a lot of removal spells are black and red. So, it's just a better Soul Sister that can actually, that costs a little bit more but can protect itself a little bit. Alright, we have 8.5 Tails, a 2/2 Fox Cleric for 2 white pips. It says, pay a colorless and a white target permanent you control gains protection for white until end of turn. Or pay a colorless and or play a colorless. Target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. So if you pay 3 mana, you're pretty much protecting whatever you want. And as long as you have the mana to do so, you can just be like, hey, this permanent is white, and I'm going to give it protection from that spell that's on the stack. Boom. So, and he's also a fox, so you can always sacrifice, pay for, and go from there. Voice of the Blessed is a 2/2 spirit cleric for 2 white pips. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Voice of the Blessed. As long as Voice of the Blessed has 4 or more +1/+1 counter, it has Flying and Vigilance, and as long as it has 10 or more counters on it, it has Indestructible. So, we don't care about how much life we gain, we care about how many times we gain life because of cards like this and many other cards that we will see. This guy can get really big, really cool, really quick. So Silver Chase Fox is a 2/2 Fox for 1 and a white. You can tap a colorless and pay a white, sacrifice it, exile target enchantment. It also happens to be a fox. So we want it in there. Selfless Spirit is a 2/1 Spirit Cleric for 1 and a white. With flying, you can sacrifice it at instant speed. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. I think that's amazing. Lone Rider is a 1/1 Human Knight for 1 and a white. First strike, lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, any end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform it into Lone Rider, which is, if I'm not mistaken, just a bigger version of it with first strike. So that's always pretty cool, lifelink, first strike, and bigger creature for just 2 mana. Sign me up. Archivist of Ogma is a 2/2 halfling cleric for 1 and a white with flash. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Early in the game, this is really cool. Once everybody's cracking their fetches or just ramping up, you can just respond with flashing this in, get yourself some draw, and then for the rest of the game, every time somebody tutors, boom, you have something really cool triggering. And then for the 3 drops, we have Filigree Familiar, a 2/2 fox for 3. It's colorless. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. That's cool. And when it dies, you draw a card. And it happens to be a fox. So you're going to be getting, a little 2 triggers, and then you're reducing the cost of your commander, which is always good. Farfinder is another fox, a 1/1 fox for 3 colorless with vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, you search for a basic land card, put it into your hand. We just care about reducing, but that's also a really cool bonus there to ramp. Now we have Runetail Kitsune Ascendant, a legendary creature fox monk. It's a 2/2. When you have 30 or more life, flip Runetail Kitsune Ascendant, and when it flips, it turns into a legendary enchantment called Runetail's Essence. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. So we can swing freely without caring about our creatures dying, and we can get all those attack triggers. And not only that, but it's also a fox if we have less than 30 life. So that's pretty cool, but it almost never is. It almost always comes down and flips immediately. Now we have Resplendent Angel, a 3/3 angel for a colorless white with flying. At the beginning of each end step, including your opponents, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance, which is awesome. We can do that very consistently. And we can pay 3 colorless and 3 white until end of turn. Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. This is one of the MVPs of the deck for sure. Now we have Brimaz, or King of Oreskos, a 3/4 cat soldier for 1 white with vigilance. When he attacks, you create a 1/1 white cat creature token with vigilance that's attacking, and when he blocks, you do the same, but it's blocking that creature. So we're just making tokens, making more attackers for the following turns, building that board presence up with little weenies. Heliod, Sun Crown, a 5/5 legendary enchantment creature god for 2 and a white, indestructible, and as long as your devotion to white is less and it is not than 5, it is not a creature, and whenever you gain life, you put a counter on target creature enchantment you control, and then you can give lifelink to people paying 1 or colorless. Following up by Welcoming Vampire, a 2/3 vampire for 2 and a white. With flying, whenever one of those little tokens with power 2 or less under my control, come into the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. The ability triggers only once each turn. So we want to focus on getting those tokens on every turn. So my turn, your opponent's turn. So that way, on a whole rotation, you can possibly draw 4 cards. That's pretty cool. Even though it only triggers once per turn, we can still not abuse it, but take more value off of it in this deck. Now we have Adeline Resplendent Cathar, a star 4 human knight for a colorless white with vigilance. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And whenever you attack for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a place trigger you control. So we're going to be making, yet again, more tokens. Mirror Entity is a 1/1 shapeshifter, so it could be a fox for 2 and a white. And it is a fox. It is everything. And then you can pay X at any time until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness X, and gain all creature types. Just make them huge. Go ahead and swing. Go crazy. This deck wins by combat. There is no infinite combos in this deck. And there's also no I win cards, such as Felidar Sovereign. And I forgot the other card that says if you have 50 or more life, you win, or something like that. There's no Aetherflux Reservoir. There's not a lot of cards that you can, and honestly, they kind of don't go in the deck. If you play it, you'll understand. It just feels clunky. Now we got the 4-drop creatures. We got a 7-tail Mentor 2/3 Fox Samurai for 3 and a white. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. We care about being a fox. Now we got Hero of Bladehold, a 3/4 human knight for 2 white. Has Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And whenever it attacks, you put 2/1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So once again, very similar effect to what we've seen before. We're just going to go ahead and make a lot of tokens in this deck and attack. So we want to attack, make tokens, get counters, get draw, and then eventually just overwhelm our opponents. Leonin War Leader, a 4/4 cat soldier for 2 white. Whenever it attacks, you create 2 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. So, very, very nice. Benny Brax Zoologist, a 3/2 elf druid for 3 and a white, has Convoke, which means you can type your creatures down to pay for this cost. At the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card. And we want to focus on that, so we will be doing consistent drawing. Mangara the Diplomat, a 2/4 human cleric for 3 and a white with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, you draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. Very, very nice card draw and very, very nice protection. People are going to be incentivized to attack. You don't want them coming your way, and this is a good way to incentivize that. Ranger of Eos, a 3/2 human soldier for 3 and a white. When it comes into play, you must search your library for up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 1 or less. Review them, put them into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. I love this card because it is a tutor, but you're not tutoring for combo pieces. You're tutoring for your Soul Sisters and your Leonin Elder, and you're trying to put that down so that, let's say somebody wants to make 20 treasures. You're about to gain 20 life, get 20 triggers. They'll think about it, a few times. Ranger of Eos is great just to, make sure you get those cards out there. Archangel of Thune is probably the best card in this deck. It is a 3/4 angel for 3 white, flying lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This goes bonkers. You will make your creatures huge in no time. That is the best creature in the entire deck. Followed by Crested Sunmare, a 5/5 horse for 3 white. Other horses you control have indestructible, and at the beginning of each end step, not just your own, if you gain life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token, and you give it indestructible. So you fill up the board very quickly with those 5 horses. People do not see that as a threat until it's too late, and you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 horses on the battlefield. Now we got Celestine the Living Saint, a 3/4 human warrior for 4 and a white. I'm surprised this is not an angel. Flying lifelink and has Healing Tears. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. This took the place of Sun Titan because we can get things that are bigger than 3, and it's in the whole life gain thing. We can make it bigger, and it does have lifelink and flying, so we can get that in there. We're going to be getting a lot of stuff back with this girl. Valkyrie Harbinger, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, is a 4/5 angel cleric for 4 white. Very clunky creature, but very in theme or on theme. It's a flying lifelink at the beginning of each end step. If you gain 4 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So just more triggers activating cards. Ancient Gold Dragon, a 7/10 Elder Dragon for 5 white. Flying, whenever it deals combat damage to player, roll d20. You create 1/1s equal to the number of that. They're all blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the result. This I might cut. It is amazing in certain things. It usually does not. I don't know. I might cut this out for something a little bit more efficient. It is an amazing card, very strong card, but it does cost a lot, and usually it's just a removal magnet as soon as it comes down. And now we're going into the enchantments. This card is the MVP, probably the best card. Not the best creature, but the best card in the deck. It's Reconnaissance. It's an enchantment for a white. It says, pay 0, remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. That creature neither deals nor receives combat damage this turn. So, this card, let me explain it to you guys because there's a lot of people getting angry out there when I'm using it. You can activate this at any time. You can activate it when you declare attackers. You can activate it after blockers, before damage, or you can activate it at the end of combat step. At the end of combat step, which is after damage. So it says that creature neither deals nor receives combat damage. But guess what? it has already dealt that damage. You cannot go back and erase it. It's already been done. So when you do it at the end of combat, it's already been done. You can't prevent that. So, okay, let's say I've got 3/3/3s and my opponent has 2/3/3s and a 1/1, right? I attack with all of those. I don't want my 3/3s to die, but I do want the attack triggers. So I go ahead and after he or she declares their blockers, I can go ahead and remove the 3/3s from combat so that his 3/3s don't kill mine, and mine won't kill his either. But I got the triggers, and then I'll let the 3/3 that's being blocked by the 1/1 go ahead and get blocked and go through damage, and I'll remove it at the end of combat. So it's giving me pseudo vigilance. It's just an amazing card for this deck because you will get the attack triggers without suffering the consequences. Alright, Cleric Class. Cleric Class is an enchantment for 1 white. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead, which is always good. But I love the second level. It's pay 3 and a white to level it up, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And then the third one, we don't really care too much about it. Pay 5 and then return a creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to its toughness. Actually, you might care about it. I've probably used it twice the whole time I've had it. Authority of the Consuls is an enchantment for white. So I usually don't like stacks pieces, but I did include this one because it's a 1-drop. Sure, creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tab, which does help you. It is annoying, but it does help you. But I love that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain 1 life. So it's like another Soul Sister effect. More triggers, small triggers here and there. Land Tax, of course, a 1-drop, a white 1-drop for enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponent controls more lands than you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards. Reveal them, put them to your hand, and shuffle your library. So just great ramp. Dawn of Hope, it's an enchantment for a colorless and a white. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card, and then you can pay 3 and a colorless, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So just great card draw. We're going to be doing that a lot, especially when we have a lot of mana. It's really useful. Smothering Tithe is an enchantment for 3 and a white. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice, so you make a treasure. You guys know this card. Come on now, I don't need to even say this. It is busted and it's awesome. Angelic Accord is an enchantment for 3 and a white. At the beginning of each end step, emphasize on each, if you gain 4 or more life this turn, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Anointed Procession, an enchantment for 3 and a white. If an effect will create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. So now we're doubling all of our tokens. Isn't that nice? Here's a little bit of ramp. We got Soul Ring, of course, Arcane Signet, Lightning Greaves to give our commander or our Angel of Thune Shroud and Haste, and yeah, it's just an amazing card. Fellwar Stone for ramp, Pearl Medallion, of course, Sword of the Animus. Let's go ahead and get those lanterns to play when we attack. Dolmen Gate, very important artifact in this deck. It's probably one of the only artifacts we tutor for with a land that's coming up here soon. It costs 2, prevent all combat damage, so it'll be dealt to attacking creatures you control. So we have, 3 cards that do something very similar. We want to do that. Oketra's Monument is a legendary artifact for 3. White creature spells cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance, and we are going to be putting down a lot of, weenies on the battlefield, so that does trigger a lot. Archaeomancer's Map is just a great way to ramp again. When it comes in, you search for 2 basic plains cards, reveal them, put them in your hand, and then if your opponents have more lands than you and they put a land down, then you go ahead and put one of those or any lands that you have in your hand onto the battlefield. And is it tapped? No. No, it does not enter tap, so that's pretty freaking awesome. Well of Lost Dreams is an artifact for 4. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X for X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gain. If you do draw X cards, it's just amazing in this deck. And moving on, we're moving on to some instants. We got Enlightened Tutor, an instant for a white. Lets you search for any artifact or enchantment, put it on top of your deck. We're usually looking for that reconnaissance or whatever we might need. Very awesome. Sometimes early game, I just use it to go get a Soul Ring. Tithe is an instant for a white. Search your library for a place card. If you have fewer lands and target opponent, you search for 2 instead. That is awesome. Swords to Plowshares. Everybody knows this target removal. Instant that lets you exile a creature. It costs 1 mana. And then Heliod's Intervention is an instant for X white. You can choose 1, destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments, or target player gains life twice. Usually I go for the removal option because we've already got plenty of life gain, but we do have the option, so that's cool. Teferi's Protection is an instant, then just says, see you later, I'm out, see you next turn, which is awesome. Flawless Maneuver is an instant for 2 and a white that does something similar, but not as powerful. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost, and creatures you control get indestructible until end of turn. There's a lot of ways. There's some board wipes in here, so if you do that board wipe, you can always respond with cards like that and save yourself from annihilation. Generous Gift is an instant for 2 and a white. Destroys target permanent. This controller creates a 3/3 green elephant tree token. I love this card. The fact that it says permanent. Crypt Swap does the same, but with a creature, but exiles it instead, and they make a 1/1. It is also a tribal instant that has no meaning in this deck, but cool to point out. All right, we got Return of Dust. Of course, it's an instant for 2 white, exile target artifact or enchantment, and if you cast it during your main phase, you get to choose 2. Akroma's Will is an instant for 3 and a white. You choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Creatures you control gain Flying, Vigilance, Double Strike until end of turn. Creatures you control gain Lifelink, Destructible, and Protection from all colors until end of turn. This is a win con in this deck. Idyllic Tutor is a sorcery for 2 and a white. Lets you search for any enchantment, put into your hand. Usually we're gonna be getting Reconnaissance. We cannot search for the Rune Tail enchantment because that's a creature when it's in your deck. Savine's Reclamation is a sorcery for 2 and a white. You can return target permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then you can flashback it for 4 and a white. And then if you do that, you may copy it, so you can do it. You can actually get 3 permanents back with that card. Here we have Farewell, one of the best board wipes in the game. It's a sorcery for 4 white. Choose 1 or more. Exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, all graveyards. Vanquish the Horde, a sorcery for 6 white. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Destroy all creatures. And now we're going into the lands. We got Nick those Shrine of Nicks, of course. We got Hall of Helios Generosity so that we can get that Reconnaissance back from the grave. Emeria the Sky Ruin is just a great way for us to return creature cards from the graveyard to the battlefield late game. We've got Aganjo, Seed of the Empire. We can always use some damage for them creatures, but it almost always comes down as a regular land, not gonna lie. Adventurer's Fair is just a way for us to search for Dolmen Gate, or we can look for some ramp that way too. I'm not sure if that's as effective, but Arcane Lighthouse always helps to take their hexproof and their shroud away, which is awesome. Ghost Quarter to destroy one of their lands. Blast Zone is awesome in this deck. Scavenger Grounds, because we need that graveyard hate. Core Haven's always great against those Voltron decks. War Room is a great card draw in any mono white deck. We have Emeria, Shattered Skyclave, which is a land that can come in untapped. Excuse me. If you pay 3 life, and if you don't, it just comes in tap. But on the other side, you can pay 7 mana to create 2 angel tokens with indestructible. And yeah, I almost never do that. But it's good to have an option. Double phase lands or whatever they're called, they're amazing, I think. And here's another one: Undo Inversion, destroy all non-land permanents for 6 white, or you can just have it enter as a tapped land that gives you white. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 planes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our Patron of the Kitsune deck. We want to trigger life gain as much as we can, get counters, tokens, card draw, overwhelm our opponents in combat, and take them out. And you'd be surprised how fun this deck is. I'm telling you, it is an amazing deck. Very not so popular, so not a lot of people are running it. Very nice. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching so much. Until next time, No Say Gaming out.